Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tunnel Vision, a show brought to you by USCFootball.com. I'm your host, Keely Eure, joined by Shotgun Spratling and Ryan Abraham. We're going to be talking about the mess that happened yesterday at the Rose Bowl. Yes. It was a mess. It was a mess for USC and USC's football program. I don't think anyone can really argue that. We're going to be talking about USC's loss to UCLA. And we're going to talk about Clay Helton, head coach, his hot seat. Did it just get hotter? I think everyone in our comment section is yelling yes. And then we're talking about the conference call. Clay Helton had his weekly conference call with reporters about an hour ago. We'll talk about that. Give an injury report. There's a long list tonight of guys that are injured. And then we'll, of course, be taking your questions. Make sure to comment those down below. I believe we are live on YouTube and Periscope. I believe we're having technical difficulties on Facebook. We'll try and get that sorted out. But guys, it's been a little over 24 hours since USC's loss to UCLA. There's been a lot of talk on national media about Clay Helton and his job security going forward. What are your thoughts about what transpired?
What are you talking about? Like the game that happened on Saturday at the Rose Bowl, losing to a 2-8 Chip Kelly coached UCLA squad, giving up the most yards you've ever given up to a single running back in the history of the rivalry. The first time 13 losses between the two schools in the 88-year history of the rivalry. And yeah, there was just so many things for the first time since before any of us were born, even me, which is kind of crazy. Like, that's not the kind of stuff that you want to have coming out of a game like that. And obviously that's what happened for USC. I mean, it was pretty simple for me. And I wrote a piece today. You can kind of check it out on USCFootball.com. And we'll talk about the future of Clay Helton later and what we think should happen. But for the first time, I came out and said, yeah, USC should part ways with him. But you look at what happened in this game, you're talking about a not very good UCLA squad. Gave up a bunch of points just on special teams, just like we saw 2 weeks ago. I talked about this on the preview show. They gave up a lot of points on special teams to Oregon. They did it again to USC, but USC wasn't able to take advantage of really anything else. They got pushed around, I think, from UCLA. They went big. They used what Clay Helton was calling the 13 package with 3 tight ends and a running back and 1 wide receiver. Apparently something they hadn't seen before, which that always seems to be the case I've never seen this before, so how are we going to stop it? But UCLA just ran over USC. Was it 293 yards for Joshua Kelly? 96 or 289, something like that.
Yeah,
so almost 300 yards. So no one's ever done that in the rivalry before, so that's pretty huge. It's only the second, the two running backs that have run for the most yards against USC, Kenyon Barner in 2012, coached by Chip Kelly at Oregon, and then Joshua Kelly yesterday for UCLA. So that's just getting pushed around up front. USC gave up so many big runs. He had already had his career high, like in the middle of the second quarter, and just obviously blew that away. And USC could not run the ball against one of the worst statistical rush defenses in the country.
Same as last year when they were like the worst, one of the 3 worst.
Yes.
USC couldn't run the ball. I don't know what the issue is there. They decided not to run it very often. I mean, Cedric Ware got banged up. The shoulder that he injured against Cal became an issue again. He basically was kind of an emergency guy, I would say, because they didn't want to use Marquise Stepp, try to save that game that he has left in case, if Vi would have got injured in this game, they needed Marquise Stepp for the Notre Dame game, I'm assuming. So he checked in a little bit, but he didn't play that much. You saw when you're talking about UCLA's running game, I don't think it was necessarily that they pushed them around so much, is that Joshua Kelly was really good about picking his spots. So his lateral cuts were really good. And what he basically did was patient enough to wait until a USC defender would basically get out of their gap. And Clay Helton talked about it. He said, when we stayed in our assignments and we stayed in the gaps we're supposed to be in, we stopped them. It was like the ball was down, is what he said. The ball was down. Basically, they made stops every time, which tells you if that's what they think, then that tells you that they were out of their gaps a lot.
Yeah.
Because Joshua Kelly had some big runs there.
61-yarder, like, come on,
They did, and that was a really the 55-yarder. That was basically the game-winning touchdown. That was a really nice play design. Clearing out the cornerback, and USC was in man coverage. One of the things they did is their linemen had really wide splits, which is kind of classic Chip Kelly. But then when they went to that package that had the bigger tight ends and only 1 wide receiver, those guys were really bunched up on the edge. And USC didn't really handle it well. I mean, their edge defenders were getting too wide. inside, and they were able to kick those guys out, or they were able to block down. A lot of times what they did is they slanted inside with their protection, so it was actually a wide receiver coming to pick up the safety. And that's why you saw those cornerbacks getting so many tackles, is because they were basically leaving the cornerback open, and that being the one-on-one matchup. Because basically, when you're running the ball, you want to get that one-on-one matchup. You're running back with a defensive back. Usually, it's the safety when you're running between the tackles. And then you say, okay, our guy, 6 or 7 yards down the field, if he makes that one guy miss, he should have a really big run. Well, they were forcing them action inside, and the running back was doing a nice job of going towards the line, sucking everybody in, popping out
and
outside, and then trying to take on Iman Marshall or Isaiah Langland. That you saw those guys. I think they were the 2 leading tacklers.
Yeah,
both of them were up there.
Clay Helton talked about that on the conference call. Like, it's usually not a good sign when your DBs are your leading tacklers, and that's what was happening here.
Yeah, and usually when your DBs are your leading tacklers, that means somebody's throwing a lot of passes on you, and they're tackling them after the catch, but. Iman Marshall led the team with 11 tackles, Isaiah Langley with 9, so 20 combined tackles from your 2 cornerbacks. So that tells you what was happening, especially when Wilton Speight didn't really beat you with his arm that much. I mean, he had a couple of nice throws. He got knocked around a lot. I was really impressed with his ability to stay in the game because USC was putting pressure on him, but they weren't able to get enough to stop some of those. It was basically early. It looked a lot like that UCLA had taken a page out of the USC book. Mm-hmm. 3rd and long, throw it up. Caleb Wilson makes a catch. 3rd and long, throw it up. Theo Howard makes a catch for a touchdown.
That was the first drive, I think.
Yeah, that was the entire first drive for him. So throw it up. We'll throw the 50-50 ball, see if we can make a play on it. And they were getting that because USC was trying to load the box to slow down Joshua Kelly because that was the guy they were worried about, and there was good reason for it.
Yeah.
In his conference call, Clay Helton said that he said multiple times he was really proud of the first 2 drives USC had on offense. He was very proud. He said it over and over again. When asked if he would change anything as play caller yesterday, he said he wouldn't change anything. What do you take away from that?
It was really weird. Just the conference call was just kind of strange. I mean, he probably mentioned, interesting. One thing he mentioned early on the conference call was, so he usually goes through, happy Sunday, everybody, goes through his routine, and then he talks about what he liked on offense and what he didn't like defense and special teams and stuff like that. He'd mentioned like the playmakers on offense and talking about all these young guys. Obviously you got JT Daniels, like Michael Pittman, Bayless Jones. Like he mentioned all those kind of guys and saying that they were all going to be back next year. So early on in the conversation, he brings up like the future, which is kind of interesting because that's what everyone wants to talk about. Though a lot of people don't think he's part of that future. So for him, that tells you a little something right away that he's talking about next year. Like in the very beginning of his conference call.
And he did that against, after the Cal loss in his presser, he talked about Notre Dame and how they had a bad season, but then turned it around.
Yeah.
And so it seems like he's positioning himself to not try and get fired. Maybe like, hey, this is an isolated incident, this is a bad season, but next season, we got guys coming back. It's going to be better, don't worry. It was a little weird to offer that information week 11. Maybe wait till after Notre Dame, I don't know.
And there was a lot of, you're right. And there was a lot of questions about like, hey, what would you do differently? What would you change? Halftime, you guys pretty much stink after halftime. What would you do? How would you change? And he mentioned probably like 5 or 6 times how he loved the first 2 drives after halftime. Now, USC only scored in the 3rd quarter, right? Yeah.
Yeah, is that what he said?
The first 2 after halftime, which were spanning the 4th quarter. The second drive went into the 4th quarter. There was only 2 full drives in the 3rd quarter, one by USC, one by UCLA. So longer drives there. I mean, USC's first drive, 11 plays, 77 yards. And then UCLA had a 5-play, 34 yards. USC gets the ball back, another long drive, but it spans into the 4th quarter after Keely and I nearly got run over by Tyler Vaughn on the final play of the third quarter. But they
only scored 3 points in the second half. But he had this love of, he had a love affair for Toa Lobodon. He had a love affair for those 2 drives, and he kept referring to that. That's what you want. 125 yards on those 2 drives. Like, you got 3 points. Like, no, that's not what you want.
They were solid drives. I'll give him that. But there were things that messed everything up. They actually gained probably, they got 125 yards. They probably gained 150, 160 on those drives because of penalties backing them up and costing them more yards. And then the biggest one, so they do, they get the 3 points. UCLA scores the lone touchdown. That drive, or actually that was after the second one, excuse me. They get the ball back. They're up. The score was 27-21 at the time. USC has a chance. They drive the ball. They have a pretty good little drive going. And they get a holding call. Hey, holding calls happen. USC gets a lot of penalties, but holding calls happen. Those are fine. The other ones, the false starts and those things, those are the ones you complain more about. But they get the holding call, forces it to 3rd and 21. They would have had a couple yard gain on that. They were at the 30-yard line. Instead, it gets backed up to the 40. The 40-yard line.
Okay.
3rd and 21. And you decide to run the ball? Hey, I know it worked against Oregon State when it was 3rd and 13. You can run the ball. This ain't Oregon State. I know UCLA's run defense isn't great, but they've stopped you all day. They haven't really given up any big chunk plays like you're wanting to get on this. 3rd and 21 on the 40. Field goal kicker. Hey, we'll say you can go to 47 yards. So we need to get to 10 yards for it.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just more indication that they just do not trust Michael Brown. Maybe that's why they faked it last week. Maybe that's why they went for it against Arizona State. I don't know.
He had 3 attempts in this one at least.
And he made, what, 2 of the 3, I think?
2 of the 3, yeah.
So he made a deep one. I think the first one he made was like 46 yards.
It was his career long,
Yeah, 46 yards. So he's already made a 46-yarder. But if you pick up 10 yards, it's a 47-yarder. If you pick up 12 yards, the defense is probably going to give you something underneath, let you run and try to run and gain some yardage. Instead, you run the ball and you run it to the short side. So you've got less room to try to pick up these yards. You pick up 3 yards and you punt the ball. And now give credit to Reed Budrovich, really nice punt, gets the ball down on the 3-yard line. That's fine. But be more aggressive. If you talk about being, hey, we're going to be ultra aggressive. He's used that phrase, I don't know, 12 times in the last 3 weeks since he took over as the play caller. If you're going to be ultra aggressive, then be ultra aggressive and go throw the ball. And you talk about, hey, we have confidence in JT Daniels. We trust him. The ball slipped out of his hand. That's what the interception was later in the game. You can see it on the replay a little bit. He's trying to throw the ball away. It slips out of his hand. It's an unfortunate accident. He felt terrible about it afterwards. You could tell by the photo I have of him down on the ground with everyone cheering in the background.
That was a good photo.
But if you trust JT Daniels, then trust him to throw the ball. And if not, he'll throw it away and you're still going to punt the ball.
Yeah.
If he gets a sack, what happened? You're still going to punt the ball. You think you're going to pick up 12 yards with a run on 3rd and 21? No. And run it to the short side. At least run it to the wide side and give him a little more chance. I just was baffled by that play call, and I put it on Twitter, and some people were like, no, I understand. I don't trust this freshman quarterback. I'm like, they've trusted him all season. They're trusting him to throw the ball when they probably should be running the ball more often here.
He had like 335 yards or something, or what?
Yeah, 20 for 34 for 337. Good numbers. I mean, besides the 2 interceptions.
Yeah, the 2 interceptions were pretty bad.
He could have had another interception that got dropped, but I was just baffled by that play call. But he wasn't taking anything back. I gained 3 yards on a 3rd and 21 run. Not going to take that back.
No.
Even if I made a great call and it didn't work, if I said throw the deep ball, I'd be like, I'd like that back. I'd like to change it. Maybe I'd run a ball here or something.
I love where Shotgun's put the flag down. Like, this is my stand. I'm not letting him get by.
The more positive one. If people are reacting, they're like
baffled by that call. It made no sense.
Okay, so the point of the call was he wasn't going back and saying, in retrospect, it would have been better to do this. He was basically saying, I wouldn't change anything I did.
And have we ever seen him this season go back on anything or change on anything?
No.
This is who Clay Helton is. He's going to be stuck in his decisions, and this is what he's going to do. Exhibit A, Toa Lobendon. He's not going to admit that any decision he's made is wrong.
Yeah. No real horrible snaps for Toa Lobendon, but there was that one series where he had like the fake snap, and there was 2 bad, like they weren't like bad snaps, they were penalties, but
that was the same drive we're talking about.
Yeah.
They had, I think, 3 penalties on that drive that forced them back, and they picked up a couple first downs after the ones that Toa had. They did a good job. Michael Pittman makes a nice catch and over the middle and stretches out for first down. Amon-Ra St. Brown gets down on a screen pass. Some nice play calls in there. But 3rd and 21, I'm baffled by that play call. And then you punt it down. You do a really nice job. You pin them on the 3-yard line. 3rd and, I think, 10, 3rd and 8. They can't get off the field. They're in the shadow of their own goalpost. Did a good job rushing the passer on first down. Hit Wilton Speight. They ran the ball, didn't get him many yards, but they throw and get a completion there. It sets up the drive. The drive goes for a 97-yard drive because Joshua Kelly runs it for 55 yards to the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah.
It all started with them getting out of the shadow of their end zone on 3rd and 8. Now, if you stop them at 3rd and 8, and I understand if you stop them on 3rd and 8, it's a completely different thing because you're getting the ball back, you're in plus field position. Now you got a clean drive to start with, and you're still ahead by 6 points.
And a lot of the problems you see with this USC offense too, we've seen spurts. We see like it all just happens at once. Like you get. Like you're playing a slot machine, you're playing forever, you get nothing, and then boom, you hit like that's USC. Like they're jackpot offense. Like another analogy off the top of my head.
Feast
Bam, bam,
or
bam.
famine. Well done, Ryan.
But it is. So you get the horrible play to set up the 4th and 1 where they have to go for, like, when they had JT Daniels.
Oh, the
rush
final
the
drive?
Yeah. Oh, no, the fake punt one where they ran the fake punt.
They did the fake, then the QB sneak.
Yeah, the fake QB
Which
sneak
we've
that
never
got
seen
it
them
never
do
works,
before.
and it never works. Like when they try to rush during that stuff,
Yeah.
it just doesn't work. But then they execute a fake punt and throw a bomb, and it's like boom, and then pin them deep and block a punt, boom. It was just like crazy. Like that's just what USC does in these like spurts.
Yeah.
But then it just goes away again. It's like talent will bubble to the surface, and you will see some amazing plays. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, oh, we got to like keep going and keep doing stuff, and it's fleeting. It lasts it's a brief, like a firework or something. It just goes off, boom, and then you're done.
Yeah.
I mean, they got
More analogies.
great spurtability. They got some great spurtability.
Spurtability, I like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. But on the general sense, zooming out a little bit,
Zooming out.
Clay Helton in his hot seat.
Oh, we got to
He's
talk
been
about that.
asked multiple times. He was asked, on Tuesday, he said his plan was to be here for the next 15 years. His tune changed a little bit after the loss to UCLA yesterday. He said that when asked if he will return next year, he said that's a question for Mr. Swan, Lynn Swan, the athletic director. What do you think of we've said multiple times on this show, Lynn Swan doesn't really want to have his hand forced. He doesn't want to make a decision or make a firing this year. Does it change at all now that there are embarrassing losses piling up?
I think it does, and let me crack my neck and get ready for this. I don't think I'm going to do the rants like we did the last time.
No
but
ranting?
we'll do some rants. We'll do some rants. The issue, yes, everything we've heard, and I was on the phone. My phone's just been blowing up the last day or so because obviously after the loss, talking to every source you can possibly talk to, getting a lot of confirmation about what we felt, that Lynn Swan is Lynn Swan. He's his guy. He knows what's best, and he's the kind of person that doesn't want to be told what to do.
He knows what's best according to him.
According to him.
According to him, he knows what's best.
He doesn't want every booster to call him and tell him you have to get rid of Clay Helton, but that's what's happening. So that's what everyone wants to see. I think the Cal loss began the tipping point. That was pretty bad. It's nowhere near as bad as the UCLA loss, and you're going to pile on top of that. No, the UCLA loss. It's 2-8 Chip Kelly. It's UCLA. It's worse. It's way worse. You're yes.
Give 15 straight points to a Cal offense that can't score points.
No.
But this is
no
UCLA.
You're not going to recruit against Cal. Like Cal, it's UCLA versus USC. It's a difference. There is.
This is the big deal. And then the
It's not a big deal.
The next big deal, and I've talked to some sources that feel like Notre Dame's really fired up for this one. Not only are they going to try to get into the college football playoff, they have every incentive to put a beat down on USC. Every incentive under the sun. It's not going to be pretty on Saturday. USC has the athletes, and you can see some spurts that are amazing, but the line opened at 8. I mean, I was all over that. Like, give me that, and it's already up to 10. It probably, I'm doing my picks tomorrow. Probably going to be worse, which sucks. But I'm going to, I'm taking Notre Dame, whatever, minus whatever. I don't care. There's a lot of incentive there, and I feel like it's only a matter of time. I wrote a story today that I put up on USCFootball.com, which we've talked about. We've been very critical of the staff, and Clay Helton, someone, I think, honestly, and people get mad when you say, I think he's done a lot of good things for USC. I think they needed someone, because of the horrible hire of Sark, you needed someone to kind of fix that. But unfortunately, you picked someone that was on Sark's staff to replace him. Like you don't replace the horrible hire with one of his generals, and that's what you did. But Clay Helton came in, and to his credit, performed way better than you would have expected for, one of Sark's assistants. Like, he came in and won a Rose Bowl, and he did win the Pac-12 championship last year. I think he did some really good things for USC and brought a sense of stability. Now, there's other problems too. We talked about in the piece, 25 guys or so gone from the program. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and you never hear anything about them. They just kind of go away. But you just watch this team against the Blue Bloods. You watch the records that are being set. Haven't done this since then. That's not the kind of stuff that you want for USC football. So what I wrote today is this is time. Lynn Swan, I'm not saying before Notre Dame, but after the season, Lynn Swan needs to part ways with Clay Helton and look for somebody else. So I really believe that's the case. The problem is we just don't know if there's going to be enough pressure on Lynn Swan from the Board of Trustees and all the boosters and everything that he'll do it, because all our intel on Lin Swan was that he didn't want to do something like that. I think the UCLA game is a tipping point, but to me, it's kind of a coin flip right now. I'm not sure which way it's going to go, but there's going to be a lot of pressure after UCLA. There's already been a lot of pressure. Like we said, Swan, I don't think wants to hear about it, but he's going to be here. It's going to be unavoidable. We haven't had an opportunity to talk to him. You mentioned Clay Helton talk to Lin Swan. He said the same thing on the conference call that we're supposed to talk to Lin Swan. He'll do it at his, when he feels ready to address it. He doesn't address the media hardly ever.
Yep.
He came on and Trojans Live, it was like, I'm going to get up on top of the mountain and declare what's going to happen to everybody, as opposed to having the media talk to him and ask him tough questions.
Yes.
He doesn't like to do that. So hopefully we get to talk to him in the next day or so. That would be great before practice starts. Clay Helton wants to just be focused on Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
We'll see. No, I mean, we put in requests, so we'll see, if we can talk to him. Clay Helton's going to be completely focused on Notre Dame, so you're not going to get much out of him. He's like, I'm here for the long haul. He made the 15-year thing that everyone jumped on and said 15 days. 15 days might be right. Might be the 2-week sort of thing. Kind of long. I guess it was a little bit of a ramble, but a little bit of a rant. But I don't think we know yet. We're going to try to get more information on that. But I think the voice of the people is being heard. Like, it's everywhere. There's really just not a lot of people that are defending Clay Helton anymore and supporting Clay Helton. And it's going to suffer. All the stuff is going to suffer with, selling all the season tickets and stuff like that in the new Coliseum. I just think that's going to be a real big issue. And if he stays around, he might turn things around and do a little bit better. Maybe he gets rid of a whole bunch of staff members and does something new. But he's lost a lot of the fan base already. And it's not just fans that are outraged. It's fans that are indifferent. Like, they don't care anymore. And you're losing them, because you got LeBron James and you got, Goff and Robert Woods. You can see them in the Coliseum right now. And the Chargers, I guess they just lost for the first time in like 7 weeks today. But you have a lot of cool stuff here in Los Angeles that we've seen people on the message board say, you know what, instead of watching USC football, I knew what was going to happen, so I took my kids and we went to a soccer game or whatever, something like that. So I think there's a lot of dangers of not doing anything at this point, which it's hard to write stuff like that, because you like Clay Helton, you like the staff, you don't want to see everyone's life change. But if you're talking about the betterment of USC football, it's just not going in the right direction, and they need to change right now.
Look, we all agree that the head coach position, USC is not performing well enough for the head coach to be immune to any attack. We probably all think that a different head coach might perform better. However, from everything we're still hearing, still isn't necessarily going to happen yet. Yeah. So to answer Jasper, to answer Jeff, to answer Jesse, who all asking, especially Jasper, who said, you guys have avoided the replacement head coach question all season. And yes, I have. Because there's no opening. So what's the use in talking about something? What's the use in talking about a hypothetical that's not going to happen? Hey, maybe it does happen. And if it does, I can come up with a list for you then. But I'm still not going to answer that question, because from everything we're hearing, it's still not in the works. There's no backroom talk about, this is who we're going to start talking to. It's still, the chatter is still like, I don't know how there's not more backroom chatter. But as of this point, we're still hearing that Clay Helton will be the coach.
Do you think they underestimate the blowback that will happen if Clay Helton returns? The Rose Bowl, that was the lowest attended USC UCLA game since the 1950s. There is going to be a lot of apathy. And I think they are taking for granted USC fans that have just come around over and over again. It seems like there's a turning of the tide in that sense.
I feel like they'll have to see it in action next season. Or maybe at the Notre Dame game, maybe that'll be enough. I think there's still going to be enough fans there, because Notre Dame's going to, there's a ton of people that are Notre Dame fans in Southern California that are going to want to come out for a top 5 team, come see their team and root them on, especially if they think that they're going to blow out USC. Yeah, that's a great motivation for all those Notre Dame fans to come out and try to watch them. But you're looking at it, and I just don't know that there's enough pressure there. They feel that there's enough pressure. There's a lot of first. Ryan talked about it in his article that it's the first time in this and the first time in this. There's a lot of those, which is the problem. USC is going to potentially have a losing season. If they lose this weekend, they'll have a losing season for the 4th time in over 55 years. That is a crazy stat to me. It almost sounds like USC football was good.
They were. The last time it
For a
happened
long time.
The last time it happened was 2000 with Paul Hackett, 5-7, and he got fired. So that's why you're looking at. I mean, you need to upset the number 3 team in the country right now to avoid a losing season and to try to make a bowl game. That's not where USC football should be. And I think, Keely, to your point, the apathy. I do think they're underestimating it. And, there's going to be a lot more pressure, I think, after the UCLA game. And I think it's less you can ignore. But with this Coliseum renovation, like I wrote a piece earlier in the year before the Friday night Washington State game talking about this could be like the perfect storm. This might be a really, really low attendance because you've got a Friday night game in LA. You've got the Coliseum renovation and stuff going on. You got the team at 1-2, like this horrible start. It might be bad. And it was bad, but it wasn't like, it was historically bad, but not like super historically bad. It was a little bit better than I thought it would be. It was like 52,000 or something. I forget what it was. But everyone's upset about the seating situation because everyone's had, they've had the same season seats for 40 years. Not everybody, but a lot of people did, and they're getting moved. Now, it's okay. Okay, you're moving them around, but people went to the weddings of the people they sat next to, and stuff like that. People like the groups that they were with, and that all changed. Everything, all the seating maps changed. So we've heard so many people that said, "I'm not renewing my season tickets." Well, so I think you have a lot of people that aren't doing it,
and I think there were a lot of people before. Like, I just don't know that I can do it with you're going to make me have a PSL as well and all that things. So like, I'm probably a buddy at work that says, I'm probably just going to StubHub for the games. Now the question becomes, do you even want to go to StubHub when you're going to watch a bad product?
Right.
So you're going to go from people that have been there for 40 years, and even if they're, you're having a bad season, I've been here for 40 years, so I'm going to stick it out. I figured next season will be better, or even if not, we'll change coaches and it'll be better in 2 years. This is the season, and there's that, that familiarship where you're at, and you have all those memories there that you don't want to give that up. It's like throwing out the baby pictures and stuff. You're like, we don't have much space, but we'll keep the baby pictures. What use are baby pictures really? You need like 3. One when you're a toddler, one when you're like 4, one when you're like 8, and you're done. You just don't need. There's like people have albums upon albums of it now, especially with people with their phones. There's albums upon albums upon megabytes everywhere. You don't need all those photos, but there's memories there, so people aren't going to give that up. People aren't going to give up memories of sitting in the seat. But then if you move them, now it's like, well, you've moved me. Why do I really need to come? Like, I'm not in the same place I've been. I'm not with Ryan anymore.
Yeah.
We become real good friends over the years. Because he sneaks in the booze, I sneak in the whatever.
Maybe leave the analogies to Ryan.
That's your second time in a row. No, but
Why are you so anti my analogy?
I'm sorry.
There's a point there though too, because I think you can underestimate that, like the factor of you like the group. We've seen that. We've moved USCFootball.com when we went from Rivals to Scout. And the biggest issue people had wasn't like, oh, I want to be able to read the articles. It was, can I keep my same username? Do I got my post count? Like, there's a history there that people like. And it's part of the experience of being a 35-year season ticket holder at USC. And basically, they just blew it all up and said, oh, too bad, you're going to move. And so they put a lot of pressure on that. And I think you're not coming from, if this was like 2005 and you said, hey, we're going to do all this stuff, everyone's like, fine, just tell me which hoop to jump through and I will. Now there's so many other options. The experience in live events of going down all over the country because it's like, oh, I can't tweet out or Instagram what the heck's going on because the Wi-Fi sucks here. I'd rather be on my couch and watching 3 screens and do whatever I want. So there's a lot of pressure, for USC to sell tickets. There's challenges. This is adding to it. If you really don't like the head coach and you feel he should have been fired, and justifiably so, and the administration, people are saying, like, if they don't care about the product, why should I? So this is just another layer. So long answer to Keely's thing, I think they are underestimating this, the kind of outrage. We see it all the time. We never see, we always see conflict on the message boards. There's just not a lot of it now. Like, no one's conflicted about should he stay or should he go. They'll conflict about, like, who said it first and things like that. But it's like nuanced things. It's not, oh yeah, I mean, there might be one post that's like, you know what, I think we should give him another year. And then we have to lock the thread because there's so much outrage over that. They're like, it's like a hate crime or something. People are like, oh, it's all crazy on the thing. We have to lock, for the poster's own good because everyone's just jumping in and personally attacking, which we don't condone. But there's just not many people that are on Clay Helton's side or any, and I think that's the problem.
Helton positivity, hate crimes.
It's so it's bad, which sucks because he's like, and people hate when I say that, he's like a super nice guy and like very accommodating to us. He's always nice, but it's not going in the right direction. Dan said it well after your instant analysis. This is not a well-coached team, and there's too much talent for what you're seeing on the field. There's no way this team should be 5-7. I mean, there's 5 stars all over the place. I had a national writer call me asking me about the recruiting classes, and I pulled up the 24/7 Sports team composite index, and same thing, the talent composite index, and they're still number 4 in the country. Like they're behind Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. So they got 4 stars and 5 stars all over the freaking place, and they should never lose 7 games.
Obviously, it doesn't help that you've lost 4 stars and 5 stars to the tune of 25 to 29 players in the last.
But this includes the people that are just on the
roster. I know, but I'm saying it doesn't help.
It would have had more. Yeah, they would have moved up the ladder like that. Yeah.
Also, for another analogy, this is similar to the Rams leaving and coming back. When they first came back, there's a bunch of people in attendance for I think the first game they played Dallas. So obviously that's going to be big attendance. Attendance really waned that first year because they were not very good.
Right.
But now they're starting to win.
Either. They weren't fun either.
Yeah, they weren't fun. They weren't winning. You had Jeff Fisher and was not doing a very good job with that team. You see the talent now, and you see that the fans are starting to rise, and now people are more interested. Oh, yeah, I'm interested in the Rams. But at the time when they came back, everybody's like, meh. They're back. Besides that group of fans that had been the whole time been trying to bring them back, the rest of the people are like, I might check out a game. I don't know.
Right.
Like it's great to have the NFL, but StubHub's really you really intimate adventure, I guess there with it. So that people were like, I don't know about the Rams. I'm not going to the Coliseum 2 days in a row. Now people are like, I got to go on Sunday. I don't know about I'm going Saturday.
Right? Yeah, they would do that. And just so he mentioned Jeff Fisher, so one of the most horrible coaching ideas ever. So please never mention that. I get he played at USC. He was awful. We saw in the Coliseum they were bad. They bring in a 30-year-old kid, and then they're good. So that tells you all you need to know about Jeff Fisher. I'm sure he's a nice guy. USC does not need to hire him as their head coach.
It's a great Super Bowl. He was in
the crazy part is that like USC fans are very mad right now, but this is not like the lowest point. Like it could get lower next week if Notre Dame comes out and just smacks USC around a little bit. Right? Or is it just
you're using that word "if" very loosely?
Isn't that kind of the expectation? So does it get worse? I mean, I feel like it would be a lot of the people, like Ryan posted one of the things that one of the message board posts where someone said, I knew what was going to happen, so I went out with the kids and had a great time. I feel like that's going to be the expectation going this weekend.
There's more upside for that. Like Clay Helton there'd be upside for him. Like no one's expecting him to be close or win. So if he does either one of those, close, I mean, I don't think they'll care as much. But if they win, I mean, it's a mixed bag because there's fans that don't really even want to see that. But you still get to beat Notre Dame, which is always like, that's a great thing. And you'd be bowl eligible. So yes.
And our Christmas plans change.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I think there wasn't a lot of upside to UCLA. Like you should have beat a 2-8 Chip Kelly team. You don't win, there's a whole crap load of downside. We talked about that. So we're seeing the downside. It's a freaking avalanche of downside coming down on the Clay Helton's doorstep. But there's more upside to the Notre Dame game. But like I said, everyone I've talked to so far, there's behind the scenes, there's whatever reason, Notre Dame is going to be fired up for this game. They can clinch.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean they're playing for something real. There's no, and they probably need style points because if they just barely beat USC, who knows? And a lot of people are going to be rooting for USC because they want to get Notre Dame out of the playoff thing. So there's reason that Notre Dame is going to come out and put a beat down or want to put a beat down on USC.
I mean, I don't root for the teams and the games we're covering, but I'm rooting for Notre Dame to lose just because I don't want to see them in the college football playoff.
You're not a big fan?
No.
I'd
much rather see Georgia or somebody else behind.
Georgia fan over here. Let's go into questions. We're already past the halfway point.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, you're good.
I do apologize about the Facebook thing. We tried that, so I
don't know how
we have really good numbers on. So I did an emergency. I don't know if you guys know. I just mentioned this emergency tunnel vision last night. We had 600 people on me sitting on my couch with my phone on YouTube, which was absolutely insane. But we've had up over 440 on YouTube right now, and I think our Periscope thing too.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah, like
thanks, sir.
like 140 people on it. So bigger numbers than we've had before. So you guys are fired up.
Yeah, so let's go into questions. We have a interesting question from Jasper Smith, who says, with the coaching situation in disarray, what recruit in their right mind would sign with USC during the early signing period? Early signing period is December. It starts on December 19th, which is in a couple weeks. I mean,
So who's going to sign? If you're thinking about it as a recruit, you sign if you're an early enrollee. If you're already going to be here in January, then you go ahead and sign, obviously. But otherwise, like, what is the advantage to signing now? Really, there's not. I mean, I would let it play out if I'm one of the recruits. Even if I committed and I think I'm coming to USC regardless who the head coach is, and the other aspect is if you're committed to USC because of Clay Helton, I would still wait it out. And be like, coach, I'm going to wait it out, just see how things go through the bowl season. And then, I can sign in February, no big deal. So the advantage of signing early is kind of lost for this group. So, the kids are coming to USC. So that means if I'm one of the opposing coaches, if I'm recruiting a kid hard, like a kid like Kyle Ford, or a kid, I'm trying to think of someone who's committed that other schools have been on, like Jason Rodriguez, who's taken a couple official visits. If I'm one of those other schools, I'm telling Jason, like, hey, don't sign right now. Just wait it out. Hey, you can still sign with him in February. Just wait and see what happens and see, you really like Helton. So, just wait and see if he's still there. That's the pitch I would give if I was an opposing coach. So that's a good point. I haven't really thought about that, but there's no real advantage for those kids if you're not going to be an early enrollee to sign early at this point.
Yeah. Jason will sign, by the way, so I know that. But, inside information. But so, okay, here's the issue with that. The trend now is to have everybody sign. So USC is going to push to have everybody sign, as many people as possible. If you leave most of the class unsigned, they're just going to get poached, and it's going to be a mess. And then during the regular signing period, most of the other people have already signed. You're really going to be behind the eight ball. So that would be a disaster for USC if a lot of those people wait. That's why they have to take definitive action. I think that's why you're seeing they fired Mike McIntyre today. From Colorado. So he was the National Coach of the Year in 2016, and he's fired. But the problem is, he was there, this is his sixth year. 4 of the years, they finished last, and 1 of them they finished first. And this year, they're flirting with last again. So
when you lose 5 straight.
Yeah, that's 6 straight now.
6 straight.
They were 5-0, and now they're 5-6. So he's gone. But part of the reason is you want to get out early and you want to be able to get someone in place. Whatever it is, Lintz one has to make a definitive, say something.
He should.
No, he will. He has to, at least after Notre Dame. They can't wait 2 weeks and then fire Clay. It's not.
Arrogance has no schedule.
I mean, that is true.
Of the night, my goodness.
But what you need to do is that, the recruits either need to know that Clay Helton is staying, or that there's going to be a search going on, and whoever's, if T. Martin's left over or whoever it is, that's who you would be signing with. And if you really want to be at USC and you like the guy that's left there or whatever, and you like the direction, then you would sign too. But there's the early signing period. I don't think people realized how much that was going to impact the coaching carousel, and it has a huge impact.
I thought you were going to say that the recruiting cycle itself. I don't think, which maybe this is another indictment on the coaching staff, this current staff, is that I don't think they realize that this was going to, the impact that this early signing period was going to have. Whereas I thought, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, okay, there's not going to be those February 2nd shows aren't going to be happening in a couple of years.
Yeah,
those are all going to be in December. Now maybe there'll be the Pac-12 networks version of signing day on the regular signing day where they do an hour-long show and that's it.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to sign early. Now the schools and the bowl, not the schools, the networks and the bowl games and stuff, the All-American games, those are going to try to get kids to wait and not sign early because it makes for more drama and stuff for the television. But that early period is when everyone's going to sign. It's the same thing that happened with basketball when they had an early signing period. USC has the number 1 class. All their kids that are committed all sign. Now, of course, they may go and get one other guy, but when you have a class of already 4 guys, or 5 when Drake London eventually will sign with football, but you have a class of 4 guys and maybe you'll get a 5th. That means 80% of people are signing early.
Yeah. And
that's going to be the trend. 80% of the people will sign early, so February 2nd is not going to mean that much anymore.
They need to get it, so it's at a horrible time because of the coaching stuff, and they need to do early, early, August or something, and then, or
it's so tough to do. this was an idea to help the student athletes and, hey, give you an extra option, but it is really tough on the coaches, for one, because the scheduling, and like you don't really want to do it before the season because there's still such an evaluation period and stuff. So if you do that, that gives a lot more power to the kids to say, hey, you can sign before your season starts, but then a kid blows out his knee, or you don't want coaches to give up on a kid because they blow out their knee or whatever. But you might see if a kid gets in trouble, the kid gets arrested for some misdemeanor or something. You really want that kid still in your class. Now you can't get out of that. Whereas now, like someone gets arrested during the football season, you're like, we're going to distance ourselves a little bit from you.
We have a question from Gerald who says, we never talk about Clancy Pendergast on the hot seat. Can we have that conversation now?
I don't think it really matters because it's either, if Clay Helton's fired, then everybody, most everyone's probably gone.
If Clay Helton comes back,
it would have to be if he comes back. Does
is
Clay Helton
Clancy
get rid
a guy
of him?
you keep?
So, the people that he has glowing reviews for are Clancy Pendergast. He sleeps well at night knowing that he has Clancy Pendergast as defensive coordinator. But that was a really horrible performance. They had people were getting on the defense for giving up the 2 touchdowns to Cal, but those were 2 short fields. They give up 207 total yards against Cal. This was horrific. Like, this was awful.
More than that, just Joshua Kelly.
Yeah, just the Joshua Kelly alone, a UC Davis transfer. So that's bad. And we've seen some big plays and stuff given up. So I think if Clay Helton comes back, they're probably going to make him. The only way I could see is that he gets rid of almost everybody.
How much do you give Clancy a pass for injuries? You have Jane Harris playing that second safety spot. He's not even playing nickel right now. So how much do you give him leeway for that?
I'm usually I'm more lenient, I guess, towards the defense. They've been put in a lot of horrible spots all year because the offense has been so shoddy and just not consistent at all. There's been a lot of sudden change things that they've had to deal with. But they've had their issues too. They got their 3rd interception of the year. They've tipped a lot of passes. That's good, but I don't think it's been great. But I kind of tend to feel that he's got some kind of system that's well thought out, and it doesn't always work, but it seems like there's a plan in place and they execute it. So I usually give the defense more of a pass. The offense to me just seems like a muddled mess.
And the defense last year, there was some of those big chunk plays, those big explosive plays. Those were happening on the passing game. They've cleaned that up this year, even with the number of different safeties they've had.
Yeah.
They've cleaned that up better. They've given up some big run plays, but a lot of those times I feel like those are also can be leaning towards having a Janae Harris at safety and having their second or third Mike linebacker in there at times, not having John Houston. They've not had the starters. Now another issue is development, so that you have guys to step in there.
Yeah.
Now part of the reason why Ruben Peters had to play in this game was Levi Jones' dismissal, because that was who was was studying underneath John Houston. So I asked him after the game about Pali and Itiote. Was there a possibility of him dual training those 2 spots because of the Levi Jones dismissal? He said, at this point in the year, it's kind of hard to just throw a freshman and say, hey, can you learn 2 spots type thing. They're basically grooming him for that middle linebacker spot next year. So they didn't want to overload him with trying to learn that wheel spot for the last 2 games a year.
But they could have moved Cam over to the wheel, right?
I guess. He did play, but that's 2 years ago. I don't know. I thought of that too, but I didn't get a chance to talk to him extensively.
You're right. The injuries are. He's dealt with a lot of injuries, way more than the offensive side. So I tend to give him more of a pass. But like Shotgun said, there's been some issues with players coming in, and it sounded like from what Clay Helton said, he was defaulting to what Clancy wanted. But I think what Clancy would rather have is, I don't want to see Ruben Peters on the field. I want to see now Deote on the field. You got to figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah. I think the reason why you see us not talk as much about the defense is because they actually have they look like they have a plan, a scheme, versus the offense.
It's not always perfect. They're banged up a lot, but they've had
some significant injuries. Is Porter Gustin still leading the Pac-12 in sacks?
He was.
He was before this Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know, but we haven't checked on that, but that's ridiculous. He hasn't played in over a month.
Yeah.
So
you lose your guy like that.
You've lost, they've had injuries to significant players. He's missed time. Cam's missed time. Marvin Veltel. They all 3 were missing that Arizona State game, and I still hold to whatever that they would have won that game if they had those 3 guys. Those guys are worth 2 points, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Graham Cook says, who are some assistant coaches you would be okay with USC keeping if the program went the Brian Kelly route?
Oh,
if they kept Clay
forced
Helton,
everybody?
Forced Clay to make some firings.
I'm a big fan of Kenichi Udeze. I think he does a great job, and I think he's a young star in the coaching ranks that he's going to only continue to get better.
Yeah, I mean, people get mad. I like T. Martin. I mean, he's developed wide receivers. He put a bunch of dudes in the league, and he's your best recruiter on the staff. So you want to try to keep people together. I think he'd be a good person to have.
Maybe Drevno, maybe. I mean, depending on your opinion of him, I think the offensive lines played better with him. I mean, they gave a lot of protection in this game. I mean, usually I think had one sack, but JT Daniels had a lot of time to throw back there. So I think you're seeing a little bit of change
They still
there.
couldn't run the ball,
At least you get one of the two. There's some games where they haven't got any of the two.
Who did Drevno work under last time he was at USC? Like,
I said maybe.
No.
Interesting.
You're trumped. Sorry. No.
Yeah.
I think you get rid of as many people from that regime as possible. If Clay Helton's going to take over, and I think the most important thing is bring in someone to run a college offense that knows the offense.
Experience is key.
Yes.
We have a question from James, an interesting question. He said, what do you guys think of JT Daniels' comments essentially taking a shot at the fan base? So on Tuesday, JT was asked about what do you think about a lot of social media is calling for Clay Helton's job. He said, I don't really care about some guy sitting in his pajamas at home making comments on the internet.
I was doing that this weekend.
And then on Saturday, he was saying he's like, this is not a Clay Helton loss, this is a USC as a whole loss. And he said, what was the last thing he said? Oh, he said, if you think that this is on Clay Helton, you don't know football and you don't know what you're talking about. So he's essentially, I mean, if you don't know JT Daniels, his demeanor can be a little abrasive, if you will. What do you think of that?
Well, I think he's also taking blame for it himself. He's saying it's on the players. So that's a positive, actually. But can we get away from this tired notion of the basement, the couch, the pajamas? Look, everybody has one of these. Yeah. This is where all your social media comes from. Everyone's on the train, they're walking, or whatever.
Why is this the issue you have?
Because I hate when it comes up. Charles Barkley, if he sends that tweet out, he's got to be in his mom's basement. Like, nobody's in their freaking basement. Nobody even has basements in California.
But what if they're not in California?
We only get 4 credentials for away games, so I sent Keely, Shaka, and Chris Trevito and Dan. So I was on my couch, tweeting away, listening on the radio, watching on TV. So I was that guy.
Were you in your pajamas?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. What I slept, yeah.
Ryan sleeps in suits, so it's weird.
Yeah, but yes, I was that person too. I don't take... Players are going to defend their coach. I think our buddy Max Meyer had a great analogy about what Clay Helton's like. There was one about where he said he's kind of like the substitute teacher that you keep a little extra long, and the students all love him because he's good to them. He's not it's not too difficult. He's not very taxing. And yeah, if the substitute teacher is going to leave and you bring in the permanent teacher. A lot of the students are kind of upset about that and stuff, and I think that's the same sort of thing. Like, they wouldn't want to be upset about that.
We have a question from Sid, who says, is it the coaching or simply poor decision-making by JT Daniels that led to his errant throws, interception? Also, what was the deal with his slide on 3rd and 1 late in the fourth that got called back, slide head first?
So the second interception slipped out of his hand. He was trying to throw it away, apparently, which from his reaction, I would believe that, and from what it looked like on the broadcast when I watched it. The biggest issue I have with his entire game was that sliding feet first. It's 3rd and 1 on a potential game-tying drive against your rival. You should have learned last week, and it's a freshman mistake. It's a freshman mistake. I give him that. He's a freshman. Mistakes happen. But you should have learned from last week. Not only himself doing it, but also Chase Garbers, and the fact that it forced them to have a 4th and 1 too on their chance to finish off the drive against USC for Cal. So you should have learned 3rd and 1, and you should be, as soon as the play call comes in, all right, read option. If I pull this, I got to get that. I know where this yard line is where I have to get. So when you're running and you see a defender, you should never think slide there. 3rd and 1, you should be diving head first almost every day. Even if you have 15 yards and you want to dive 2 yards forward just to make sure you get the first down and get everybody back to. No, you don't slide feet first on a 3rd and 1 with less than 2 minutes when you're trying to tie the game against your rival. That's a very bad play by him.
No, but I also think it's bad coaching too, because how often do you ask him to hold the ball and run with it, like with the keep on the zone read? He never does it. So So you're asking him to do that in a very critical situation. I think that's a lot on the coaching side too. He can do that kind of stuff. He's not a statue. He can be athletic, but they're like trying to protect him. Well, they don't protect him as far as like game plan stuff, but they're protecting him as far as they don't want him to run because they're afraid he's going to get hurt. No, they'll just let him drop back and throw it as deep as they possibly want to. So, but for that, to me, it's like, yeah, you ask him to do that once a game. That's just like when you would throw it on 3rd and goal to Devin Williams before he ever caught a pass in the end. Like, why are you doing
Josh
that?
Follow.
Yeah, like
First target.
Why are you
ball.
doing that? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So
Yeah,
I'm not blaming him for, like, they asked him to do that one time in a game, you know?
Look at Wilton Spate. Wilton Spate is another pocket passer who's not going to run the ball, and he ends up with probably missing it here 7 carries. So a couple of those were sacks, but he probably ran the ball 3 or 4 times. That's what you need out of the read option.
Yeah.
It does it. Your
Chase
quarterback.
Garbers the week before, he was great at it.
Yeah, you don't need Michael Vick back there. It'd be nice to have Michael Vick, of course, but all you need is someone to run and get you 4 yards or 5 yards, just so the defense knows that they can't crash down every single time.
Yes.
And now maybe you're trying to sell it so you get that opportunity there, but you got to know when you do run the ball what you have to do when you run it. If it's 3rd and 1, that means you got to pick up the first down.
Yeah.
Yep.
For one, because you got to keep the clock moving too.
To me, there's no reason to be running this offense if you're never going to have the quarterback keep it. So that's just dumb. Like, that's bad design.
And they didn't do it with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was a mobile guy.
Yeah.
It's RPO.
But they'll do it with Matt Fink, and they'll do it with Jack Sears. Like, people, they don't care if they get hurt. They can run. But if they're like, oh, if this guy gets hurt, we're done, they're not going to let him run. And you're hurting the offense in general. So the offense looks smoother when those other 2 quarterbacks are in. And a lot of the fans are like, oh, they're better. I'm like, no, they're running it the way it should be run with those guys in there.
Yeah.
We got a lot of questions. We should go rapid fire from now.
Yeah,
rapid fire this.
Someone asked me, I tweeted during the game. Okay, so first of all, context. My phone was not getting service through the whole game, so I didn't realize what the dumpster fire Twitter was. And so JT threw that second interception. I didn't realize at the time that it slipped his hands. So I was just prisoner of the moment, tweeted out, is JT Daniels a liability? Which, as I sent it, I was like, can I delete this? And then it blew up already.
And I, of course, tweeted out there.
Thanks, Ryan.
I'm like, hey, Keely.
Keely just went there.
Destroy Keely, everybody.
Yeah, essentially he sent the dogs to me. But I actually don't agree with what I tweeted. I think JT Daniels is a pilot on a plane that has 2 engines failing. It's more the coaching and the scheme. So I don't think JT Daniels is a liability. I just think
that's an analogy.
That's good too.
Hey,
2 of the 3 of us are good at these things.
Wow.
Fired. So no, I don't necessarily think he's a liability. I just think with coaching and the system that they're putting him in, sometimes he is. Because, I film him every play, and I just see him. He stares down his receiver, and I just think sometimes when he makes those ill-advised throws, just deep bombs that are like, sometimes. But I don't think this is the people who are blaming this on JT Daniels. That's not what I was intending. It's not JT Daniels' fault at all.
I don't agree with that stuff either. But
we have a question from Periscope from ST Runner 5K who says, "What's USC's practice schedule this week?"
Same as always. What did Clay Helton say? We're going to change one thing.
Yeah. So I think they asked like what the preparation was different. It was kind of a long-winded question from your buddy at the LA Times or something.
I don't have any buddies.
But yeah, so it was like this long. Yeah, he's not going to change a thing. He's doing everything exactly the same. I think normally there's Thursday like Helton media availability, but now there's none of that. So we don't get to watch Thursday practice anyway. It's Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So they're going to practice early in the morning. So that is the only thing that's different is they're going to practice early on Thursday morning. So if the players that are local, I'm assuming, have an opportunity to go hang out with family, which is always good for those guys. And for the out-of-town guys, they'll go with someone and go to someone else's house, which is great. But that's the only really difference there. Besides that,
earlier on Wednesday.
Are they going now early?
Yeah,
Didn't know that.
3.
Sorry. I thought it was pretty much the same except for the Thursday practice. But
yeah, I think it's the same. Yeah.
So a couple of slight adjustments. Sorry, but Clay Helton did say that their preparation not one thing will change for their preparation. I talked to John Baxter after the game.
He's not concerned about the talk. It was basically about he's not concerned that people are talking about his job. He's just going to practice and prepare the same way.
Yeah, John Baxter said basically the same thing. He said it's kind of a, he didn't use these words, but it's basically a cocoon inside Heritage Hall. They're not going to listen to anything outside. They're going to get back to work, go back to work tomorrow.
Yeah. If any kind of news on that's going to have to come from Lynn Swann. So Clay's made it pretty clear very clear what his focus is, but we have to hear from Lynn Swann to see what he says.
Nick asked you a question, Ryan. He says, do you think USC will ever truly be dominant again, or should fans get used to 7 and 9 win seasons and the occasional Rose Bowl at best?
No, I think USC can be. I still believe, and when people are like, "Oh, nobody ever wants to coach," no, that's bullcrap. Like USC is still USC. It's like Alabama, but you don't have LSU or Auburn or Georgia or anybody around you. Like there's one prominent team on the West Coast. Like that's it. Like if you get the right coach here, it's over. I mean, they already have way more talent than everybody else with mediocre coaching. You get decent coaching to good coaching. Yeah, you can be, I mean, because there's just advantage of being at USC. So I completely believe that they can get back to there. But it starts at USC. The administration needs to bring in a great head coach, someone that wields power, someone that had control of everything like Pete Carroll. They've avoided that. They don't want someone to come in. They would rather have someone that they can control, which is like a Clay Helton, someone that's just happy to be there, versus someone that's going to come in with a winning attitude and will be an ass kicker and change things and do things differently in the athletic department. They don't want to do that right now. So it starts at USC. They have to want to be there. But if they do want to be there and they hire the right person completely, they can be dominant again.
This feels like a 20-year-old question. Like this was asked in 1998.
Yeah.
And then
you had Paul Hackett, and then you're like,
it's basically like, oh, we've been really bad. Are we ever going to get back? If you get the right coach, those things happen. But I think what you said is the most pertinent part. The administration has to decide that they want that.
Yeah.
They have to put the resources in. They have to make the actual effort. To hire coaches, not just the head coach, but assistant stuff. There should be a whole process. It shouldn't be like, yeah, well, I know him, so we're bringing him in.
Right.
Yeah. But do you trust that at all?
Nope.
Yeah.
No. I mean, no. You have to stop hiring former football players that have never been an athletic director before to be your athletic director.
So do you think it will change?
Not until you get a new athletic director. Most likely. No, we don't know. We don't. I mean, Lynn Swann could get lucky. He could. Whatever happens, we don't know when a coaching change happens, if it happens.
Yeah, Mike Garrett wasn't a great athletic director. He did all right.
Yeah, he ended up. You're remembered for who you hire as a football coach, and he ended up. People forget Paul Hackett, and they remember Pete Carroll. So that was good.
17th choice. Pete Carroll.
Jesse says, isn't it concerning how the players continue to defend and support Helton when he clearly is failing to develop them and put them into a position to succeed? Are they loyal to a fault with him?
What do you want him to do?
I think it's more just like that's what you're supposed to say. Like we've seen some players do some incognito things, like a tweet that's like very critical or things like that. Like I think I sent one out like. One of the receivers liked something that
was to us, not to them.
Okay, yeah, to you guys. So I don't think everyone's extremely happy with what's going on, but they're not going to come out and say, "Yeah, my head coach sucks. I hate him."
I don't think you're at the point where there needs to be a mutiny.
No.
I've been a part of one of those. It takes a little bit more than what's currently going on.
Was that before or after your touchdown catch?
After.
His soul. But here's the question: do you feel like they've given up on at least the offense? Do they really think that they can come back and that things will work? Because, I mean, it seems like they're not winning games in the second half of the season that they would have won in the first half.
Yeah. I think some of that, probably the confidence more than anything. Like, do you wake up and trust, like, yeah, the coaches are going to put me in an awesome position and I'm going to use my skills to the best of their ability and going to succeed? Probably not. But they're still going to go out there and do what they do. And, Michael Pittman will make a crazy catch or Tyler Vaughns will dive and, whatever. I mean, they'll do some cool stuff. But I don't think they come in with all the confidence in the world that the staff around them is going to be putting them in some amazing position to succeed.
Yeah. Jasper says, Ryan, you're around for the 8 straight losses to UCLA in the 90s. Does it feel like the same type of vibe right now?
That was different. That was hard because it's an LA thing, and that's if you were a USC person and living in Los Angeles and your UCLA friends, coworkers, whatever. They had won a basketball national championship in 1995, and Cade McNown and all that stuff. 8 in a row, and USC had better football seasons during that streak. Like Keyshawn Johnson, won a crazy Rose Bowl and all that stuff. They went to the Cotton Bowl. There were some crazy things that happened, but for UCLA, the most important thing was beating USC, and that's what they were able to do for 8 years in a row. So that definitely felt. The streaks are different than this. This is more like the end of Hackett's tenure, where it just felt like nobody was really on the same page. It just wasn't going in the right direction. You kind of felt like it's time to move on. So that it felt more like that, the end of Hackett's, than that losing streak to UCLA or even Notre Dame.
All right, true rapid fire now.
True.
Yeah,
rapid
true.
fire.
If you guys want to get your final questions in, then we will answer
Wait,
them.
no more. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, Ron says, are the press guys scared to ask tough questions except Dan and that guy Adam? What do you think?
Yeah, we're all afraid. No, I mean, like you ask questions and you get the same kind of like you.
That's the thing. Like, people think that this is like a trial, and suddenly if we formulate the right question, he's gonna be like, you know what? I should resign.
You got me!
Sure.
Oh my God!
It
You are
doesn't
so
work like
right.
that.
I did everything wrong, and I'm going to quit. Like, no, there's no question you could ask that would get that. I mean, I asked him the day before, "Hey, are you going to make any big changes?" The day before, he made big changes, and he said no. So, like, it doesn't matter. Like, not that I knew it was going to happen, but you knew it should have happened, and he denied. So, no, there's not. You ask a bunch of questions, and at some point, you just realize like they're not going to answer it. So,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Yeah. Steve asks a pertinent question that also transitions to our schedule on Thursday. We usually do live shows on Thursday. We're obviously not because it's Thanksgiving. He wants to know what are our favorite Thanksgiving side dishes.
Does chocolate bourbon pecan pie count as a side dish? Because
pretty
I eat
good.
enough of it that it should be. That's what
Sounds
I make.
good.
That's what I'll be making on Thursday. I would go with sweet potato souffle.
Okay,
Is that with the marshmallows on top that you
No.
broil? Oh, because that's
It's
pretty
got
good.
crumble on top.
that is pretty good. Stuffing is freaking awesome. So I love stuffing. You guys are, and I like mashed potatoes and
Mashed
gravy,
potatoes.
and I put like corn in the mashed potatoes and I mix it up.
This is like my entire college meal plan. Just put a bunch of carbs on one plate and just mix it all together. All the rices, the beans.
But I love deep frying the turkey, so I just bought my two 14-pound birds. You got to get them like
It's not a side dish.
Bird, yeah, Ryan, stay on the money. What
you got
side dish? Stuffing. That was your answer.
Stuffing
Moving
and
on.
mashed potatoes and
It's
gravy
not a
with
rapid
corn
fire
in there.
answer.
Sweet potatoes with mashed potatoes on, or marshmallows on top. You put that in the broiler. A little crisp, a little sweetness. Beautiful.
Is that gluten free?
Yeah, I think it is. So I hope it is. Jesse says, "What effect, if any, does former USC players openly criticizing the current state of the program have?"
I mean, it doesn't help the program.
The
but
former players, or
yeah, like
Yeah.
Lindale saying
there was a lot of them. We put up a story with a lot of even Sua Cravens, who was basically Clay Helton's
Essentially helped Helton get fired.
Yeah.
Hired.
His biggest advocate. Then he was trying to like back off, like, well, it's like, well, dude, you're saying it's terrible now, but when you were there, it was okay. So that's all you need to know. Like, you don't let your kids pick your babysitter. Like, that's not what you're like. So when all the players love them, like, that doesn't always matter.
Yeah. Trojan says, "Why not put in Jack Sears?" Shaka and I saw him warming up a little bit.
Yeah, a little insight.
Ish.
So there was a timeout late in the third quarter before that final drive of the third quarter that spanned into the fourth. During the timeout, Brian Ellis went over on the sideline, yelled down to the end of the sideline. Jack Sears came running over. He talked to him for a second. And then later in the drive, when I was running towards the other end of the field to get ready for photos, I did see Jack Sears tossing. Don't know if it means anything, but it was just interesting to see that happened.
What about Matt Fink? Was he dressed for the game?
I didn't
He
even
was
see.
dressed.
I thought he was warming up there. That's the other issue. Like, people are like, oh, Jack Sears, Jack Sears. Clay Helton said during the week he wasn't sure who the backup was going to be. So if they wanted to put a backup in, it might have been Jack Sears. I mean, it might have been Matt Fink. It might have
And
been
Matt
Jack
Fink
Sears.
looked good when he was in, so it's hard
No,
to
but
just
people are
lose
like,
your job.
Jack Sears. And when Matt Fink comes back, like, Sears go back to third. Like, so people that want him to start, like, just you realize what you're looking for here, like, and what the mentality of the coaching staff is. There's no question in Clay Helton's mind, it's JT Daniels. Like, there's no second thought. There's nothing. Like, he's like, no, he's the guy. So
Coley says, "Which will be the worst loss of the year, UCLA or Notre Dame?"
UCLA.
Worse in what sense? 'Cause
In any sense.
Score, it
Hurts
will
your heart.
probably be.
No, score-wise, it will be Notre Dame.
Score it'll be Utah.
Relevance,
No,
what
I
it
think it'll be
means,
Notre Dame.
the most meaningful loss will be to UCLA because
Because they're 2-8. They're
2
freaking 2-8, guys. Come on.
they really are they're a bad football team, and USC lost to them. And they have Chip Kelly, who USC, like, Pat Hayden was asked, did you talk to Chip Kelly when you hired Clay Helton? He said no. the guy that everyone would want to hire, UCLA went out and got that guy, and he beat your established coach who were there for the last 3 years. So in all aspects, it's bad to lose to UCLA, and that's why it's the worst loss.
Multiple people are mentioning how Clay Helton meets up with Lynn Swan on Mondays. Could something happen possibly tomorrow?
Sure. If there was a decision to be made, that would be a good time for it. Or because otherwise, you're bringing him in on a Sunday and like, hey, we're gonna need you to come on in this office real quick.
Yeah, that's not going to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's potential, but I don't think anything's going to happen until after the Notre Dame game. Now, maybe it's something like it could be ultimatums, like you have to do this, or this is going to happen, or whatever. But I don't expect the Monday meeting to happen, and then the breaking news, Clay Helton's no longer coming back. I don't think you're going to hear any of that. If you do, it will be after the Notre Dame game.
Yeah, does Helton get fired tomorrow? No.
And when he does tomorrow, we'll play.
No, it's
shotgun.
fine.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know anything.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Not always right in this business. Just 97%.
You ask our opinion.
Just
My opinion is
97% of the
that
time.
you're not going to get any news tomorrow from that meeting.
There was one good thing, Ryan. You still want an experienced head coach, as he says, an offense coordinator. But just being on the staff. What about Helton hiring Mike McIntyre?
Is he more like a defensive guy?
I don't know what his specialty would be, but just having him on the staff, I think that would be a good hire. If you end up getting rid of some other coaches, if that has to become what happens after the season, it seems like it'd be a good hire.
I think it's great. I mean, he's familiar with the conference, and he's not associated. Like, I think Clay Helton has to get outside of his comfort zone. Like, the administration hires in their comfort zone. Clay Helton hires in his comfort zone. You want to bag on what JT Daniels done? Well, he also has an inexperienced quarterback coach. His position coach has never done that before. So why would you do that? I don't know, but he did it. So you're going to have a true freshman quarterback and a rookie position coach. So yes, bring in experienced people. A guy like Mike McIntyre, yeah, I would be all for it.
All those things with JT with a current play caller who's never had a bunch of success either.
Right.
Yeah, it's not.
What about Jim Moore? Would you bring him on staff?
He could be a defensive coordinator for it, yeah. I mean, but that's what it would take. Like, you want to bring in that would be what Justin Wilcox did. Bring in former head coaches to be your coordinators and stuff. It's like, guys that are threatening, guys that could take your job. That's what you need to do. People that have a huge voice in the room.
And what about the purse? Like, is there enough money? Are they going to open up the vaults for Clay Helton to do what he wants if he comes back next season?
Yeah, that's hard to say.
We don't know. I mean, I feel like this is all depending on things that we know probably won't happen. Like, will Clay go out and do things that he hasn't shown us that he will do? It doesn't look very positive in that sense.
Yeah, like if Clay comes back, like, is Brian Ellis the offensive coordinator? Like, yes. Like I'm going to go with yes.
Seems more likely.
I mean, that's, yeah. Something like that.
Any final questions from y'all that you've seen? No?
Someone brought up Jim Tressel's name. That makes me laugh.
Jim Tressel. Yeah, that comes up a lot. There's so many bad. Like, I don't get why, as a USC fan, like, why are you trying to find the most obscure, doesn't work? I got an email from a dude today that was like, USC needs to hire Chip Kelly. You need to find out how to make that happen. And I was like, he just got hired by UCLA. Like, that's like, why would you even waste your time? Yes, you should have hired him before, but not now. Like, he just get paid a lot of money. He's at UCLA. Like, that's not. But they just want to come up with something completely irrational and stupid for whatever reason.
That would be like the greatest, rivalry dig, though. You're like, you just got this head coach. You're really excited about him. We took him away.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. But that's just not how this works.
No,
there's so much money that's involved. Like, so, Wasserman, you got a billionaire involved in hiring the guy. Like, you're not getting him away from that. It's like, yeah, like Chris Peterson. Like, yeah, he would have been great when you should have hired him instead of Sark. But here you are.
I'm trying to find a question. Someone has asked this. Okay, James, I'm sorry. He's asked this like 4 times. So he says, do you guys agree with this? I have a theory that a head coach won't hire coaches that are better than them. So an inexperienced head coach will have an inexperienced staff, etc.
So we've talked about this before. Ryan brings up with Justin Wilcox. Justin Wilcox was an inexperienced head coach. He brought in more experienced head coaches. To an extent, it becomes who you know, but it also is your kind of how secure you feel of yourself and of your job. If you feel like, hey, I'm secure and I can get these guys in, they'll work for me, then you can go do that. But if you're insecure about yourself and you're like, I don't know, if these guys come in, the administration might want to make a change if we're not doing really well and go to one of them. If you're worried about bringing in someone that can take your job, that can be a problem.
Yeah, and that seems what Clay Helton was worried about, as opposed to going out and just getting the best possible people. And I mean, coaches can be very stubborn. We saw Pete Carroll do some great hires early on, and by the end, he was hiring everyone that was familiar around. I mean, that's a super successful coach. So it's not just a Clay Helton thing, but that's something that's pretty common. But Pete Carroll at least had his resume to, Clay Helton doesn't have the kind of resume that Pete Carroll had. So if he has got a weaker staff around him, it's still being brought up by him, and they learn from him. With Clay Helton, it's just not the same. So you need to bring in someone experienced, that knows what they're doing, and we haven't seen him do that. He did that one time, Dylan McCullough. And sometimes you get, it's good, like Kenichi Udeze, who was a strength coach. He's now your defensive line coach. It's worked out pretty well, but you can't build your whole staff of people you hope project to work out pretty well. Sometimes you have to just get a really freaking good defensive line coach, and bring them in. So you can use them in pieces, like get a, Kenichi Udeze, that's fine, but you don't want 7 Kenichi Udezes and 2 of them end up being really good and 5 of them are just like, meh. And it's like, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Ron said, I have a theory. Is Clay Helton a planted virus from the SEC to keep SC down?
That's funny. Someone wants to know if you're going to Psychogate Shotgun on
I
Periscope.
don't know. I don't know what my plan ever is on Saturdays. It just
Yeah.
depends on how much pregame writing and reading I have to do.
Someone said, and Chuck and I kind of debated this on our podcast last week. If somehow Lynn Swann knows he's going to fire Clay Helton, but wants to wait till after the Notre Dame game, how does that benefit USC in the long run?
I say if you know that you want to make the decision,
Yeah.
you make the decision. You don't wait, because especially with the early signing period now, and the fact that the calendar is ramped up. It's it's advanced, so you have to be able to make a move quickly and go with that decision.
Right.
If you know that's what you want to do, then you do it.
Yeah. Colorado did that today. I would 100% agree. But like we said, I think if Lynn Swann does it, it's because his hand was forced, not because he wants to. So I don't think he's going to do it early.
Yeah, and really, it shouldn't matter whether you win or lose to your rival. You should know what your decision is before then. 1 or 2 losses or 1 or 2 wins shouldn't change. Be like, yeah, never mind. I think this guy's great. Or all of a sudden be like, no, this guy's terrible because of 2 games.
I mean,
it
also changed.
No, it changes your emotions. It shouldn't change what you think about a coach and whether or not you think they can win championships for you.
Yeah. But UCLA got Clay Helton hired when he was the interim head coach. Pat Hayden basically waited for a high point, and as soon as they beat UCLA, you're the permanent head coach. 2 days later, he was named, and then they end up losing 4 of the next 5 or whatever it was after it was hired. And UCLA, I wrote in my piece, it will be his downfall too. So that's what literally, Pat Hayden was waiting for an opportunity. They lost badly to Oregon the week before, but they beat UCLA. And he took that opportunity to hire him, and then he ended up losing to Stanford badly, losing to Wisconsin after not getting prepared, and then starting the next season losing 3 of their next 4. So that's basically So they had lost 5 of their next 6 after he was named the permanent head coach, right?
Like I said, you shouldn't make decisions that way.
But that's what USC does.
People's emotions get involved, and that's when boosters' emotions get involved, and then more pressure becomes, and then people are like, let me rethink it.
Yeah.
Reactionary. USC's usually been reactionary with their decisions, which we'll see.
And irrational, I would say, yes.
That too. Alrighty. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Thanks for tuning in. Sorry again about Facebook. I'll figure out what the heck's going on with that.
Ryan
They looked all
broke it.
connected. I don't know. Facebook changes their algorithms and stuff a lot, so it might be something that because we see a connection there, but it's not going live. So I don't know. I'll find out what's going on. But thanks for everyone watching on. We had a whole lot of people on Periscope, a whole lot of people on YouTube.
Thank you guys.
So,
we appreciate you very much.
We won't see you on Thursday.
Yeah, no Thursday show. Sunday show, I guess we'll do.
Okay.
We won't have no more Sunday conference calls, so we're not going to hear from Clay Helton. They're out recruiting on Sunday.
Really?
Yes, he said there's not going to be any more of
Convenient.
those.
Which also means if they lose, it'll be the second year in a row that do not have a wrap up in the season.
We'll probably get a post game presser.
You get that. That'll be it.
And
Yeah, but we didn't even get that for the Cotton Bowl.
They had one. There was one. There was very few people
Yeah, it was
found the
hard.
room.
Really?
Yeah, I was running around the
AT&T
AT&T
Stadium.
Stadium. It was hard, trying to
Yeah.
find where that was. It was pretty insane.
Yep. Alrighty.
But then we didn't hear from Clay Helton for weeks or months after that.
Early signing period, so a couple weeks.
Yeah,
No,
years.
no, that was afterwards. Months. Whatever. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Alrighty. That's going to wrap it up. That's Shotgun Spratling. That's Ryan Abraham. I'm Keely Eure. We will see you guys next week.
Thank you.